Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm doing a review of my port tour at Casa Ferreira, and this is in Porto. It's actually in Vila Nova de Gaia, which is on the other side of Porto. And I'll give you the address in the comment section. Our first tasting was at Graham's Port House, and that's kind of the top of the hill. So we just walked down about 10 to 15 minutes to Casa Ferreira. So I've always had some trouble pronouncing this winery, so I've always pronounced it Ferreira, which I've heard some people pronounce it. I've also kind of heard people pronounce it as Ferreira and also Ferreira. So hopefully one of those is correct, and people can correct me, but I'm trying to do my best. So I'm going to call it Casa Ferreira because that's what I heard most people call it there. It's kind of unique because it is a Portuguese port house. Most port houses have some English influence. As you'll see, like Graham's, Taylor's, those seem like more English names. Ferreira is a Portuguese name, and it was founded in 1651 by the Ferreira family. And so it is kind of unique in that sense. As to the tour, it's a smaller house compared to Graham's, but it does give you a different feel for things. It's a little bit smaller port house. The tour is a little bit more condensed. So with Graham's, it's about hour and a half. With Rueda, it's a little bit shorter. It's about 40 minutes. So, but it's more compact, and it's got a really nice area. There's a lot of things that you can go through beforehand. So I suggest that you get there earlier, and that you can kind of look at some of the museum things. But it's still a very good tour, and so it just depends on your time frame. If you have a little bit more time, I would go to Graham's. If you're a shorter time period, then I would go to Rueda, which is, I think, is a very good tour. You'll get basically the same information and the same type of tour that you would get at any other port house. They'll tell you about how port is made. They'll go through the cellar with the barrels, and and again, the cost range, it depends on the visit. Depends on mostly the wines that, or the ports that you're going to taste at the end, but the goes from, I think, 22 euros to all the way to 160 euros. So I guess it's got a range that's a little bit lower than Graham's. So again, if you want to spend a little bit less money, I would go to Ferreira. One of the neat things is, before you get to the tasting room, they go through this kind of area, and it's got all these advertisements in the past of Ferreira and their wines. So it's pretty neat to see that. This is a video of the wines I tasted, and then the next one is my initial tasting notes. I'm here at Casa Ferreira. I normally used to pronounce it Ferreira. That's wrong. It's Ferreira. And it had just a wonderful tasting. So we went through some of the still wines. This is one of, there's Casa Ferreira, one of the classic still wines out of Portugal. Very difficult to find, very affordable. If you can find it in North America, get this wine. This is their Vinha Grande. It's mostly a white wine grape varietal that's going to be local grapes, and let's try and taste it. It's not that expensive, but on the nose I get almost like an almondiness to it, a little citrusy, tropical fruits, not really that acidic. On the taste, I get some salinity. I get some sea. I get some apricots. I get a little bit of tropical fruits. I get some weight. One of the neat things about Casa Ferreira is that they have also still wines. I had a special tasting which kind of combined a couple of tastings, but this one, they served me two wines from Casa Ferreirinha, which is their still wine production. This winery has been producing still wines, red and white, for 250 years. And I thought that was it's quite unique, I think, among port producers, although some of them are starting to produce still wines also, instead of just ports. But the first wine I had was the 2022 Casa Ferreirinha Vinho Grande Branco, which is their white blend. It's a simple wine, blend of Arinto, Perderna, Ravagato, and Vizino grapes. These are kind of localized Portuguese grapes. I really liked it. It's got orange blossoms and white flowers on the nose, stone fruit, apricots, and a grassiness and almost an almond aftertaste. But what I really liked about it is the body of this wine. It was kind of medium body, even though it had very light taste. And so I think it really goes well with grilled fish. My rating is 88 points. Next one I tasted was the Casa Ferreira 2021 Callabriga, which is their red wine blend. It's a blend of 45% Touriga Franca, 38% Touriga Nacional, 17% Tinta Ruiz. Similar grapes that you would use in the making of port wines. But it's just neat to see it in a still wine production. So my notes on this: dark fruits and smoke on the aroma, blackberry compote, figs with an iron aftertaste. It's really thick, intense, almost like compote-y like in terms of the taste, but a great mid palate. And I think it just needs a slight bit more aging to really get it to its potential, but really, really nice wine. I don't think overly powerful, but also I just like the weight of it. The wines with Casa Ferreira, I really love the weight. I think they really do well with food, and just I think perfect with Portuguese food, which is kind of on the kind of mild side. It's not gonna be too heavy or too light, so this is perfect wines for these. My rating of this is 91 points, but I think it will go up. Next wine we had was a late bottle vintage 2020 port. And late bottle vintage is a ruby port, and it spends a little bit more time in oak barrels. That's why it's bottled late. So in this case, it's bottled 4 years after aging in oak barrels. And unlike vintage ports, even though it's got a vintage, it does not improve anymore when it goes in the bottle. So it's really for ready to drink. And I think it's a very nice product because it's not as expensive as vintage port, and you don't have to wait as long. It's a blend of 42% Touriga Francesca, 35% Touriga Nacional, 20% Tinta Ruiz, and 5% Tinto Cow. Really liked it. Lots of black fruits with spice and a balsamic aftertaste. My rating was 92 points. And the last port I had was the Quinta de Porto 2022 vintage port. Quinta de Porto is a single vineyard bottling from Ferreira. And again, like Quinta de Malvados 4 grams, it's one of their oldest holdings and it's one of their prized possessions. And so I really think when you can get a single bottling vintage port, you get a really good deal. In some years, they don't declare a port for the port house, but because their top end vineyard is so good, they get a specialized port that year. So I'm not sure, I don't believe Ferreira declared a vintage port in 2022, but again, like Grams with the 2006 Quinta de Malvados, the Quinta de Porto was so good that it was judged to be of vintage quality in 2022. So it is very young, but it's got a lot of upside. So don't be kind of fooled by my rating of it. It's very young. It's a single vineyard bottling, 30% Touriga Francesca, 20% Touriga Nacional, 10% Suicide, 40% of old vines from the field, which could be, I guess, everything. I had it as having a lot of balsamic, cedar, spice, pepper, cloves, black plums, black cherries, all over the place. Racy acidity, heavy tannins. It needs another 10 years to balance, but a wonderful young wine. It's just racy. It's going to be great. Right now, it's 90 points, but it just needs some time to settle. It's a very, very young port. So all in all, had a great time at Casa Ferreira. Thought it was a very well-organized tour, and I think it is, I think if you're going to do the tours, I would actually suggest either Grams or Ferreira. That's why I chose these two. Just compare and contrast. One of it is a bigger port house, one is a localized Portuguese port house, and this is a little bit shorter tour and a little bit less expensive kind of offerings. Grams is a little bit longer and a little bit more extensive tastings, but both are very, very good. You get a good knowledge of port, and I think you'll really enjoy this tour. Hope you've enjoyed this review. Until next time, happy drinking.